right, so in this video, I want to talk to you about stabilization and flexibility. So in this training phase, we're going to focus more on stabilization and flexibility. What that means is we're going to activate muscles that are probably a little bit underactive right now and slow down those muscles that are a little bit too active. So those overactive muscles, we want to slow those down. So in your training portion of Charlie, we want to work on that the most, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the eccentric movements. You're going to be seeing in your training plan a tempo, and that tempo is going to be a 4-0-1-0. And I'm going to explain what each one of those numbers mean. That 4 is that eccentric movement. The 4 represents a 4-second count. So let's take a bicep curl, for example. On the lowering phase of the bicep curl, as those muscle fibers are stretching out, that's the eccentric. So I'm still placing tension on my bicep as my hand, as my elbow extends, all right? So we're gonna count to 4. Down, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, down, 2, 3, 4. And that's what I mean. So for any movement that we do, if we do a squat pattern, we wanna lower down for 4 seconds, come right back up and take 1 second to come back up to the top. We're not too concerned about the concentric movement. The concentric movement is the flexion of the muscle being worked. So the concentric is going to be the shortening of the muscle fibers. So on the way up, that's concentric. Think constriction. So that's all we want to do. That's what we want to focus on in this stabilization phase. Stabilization doesn't necessarily mean balance, but there are going to be some balance aspects to your training as well. So things such as single leg balance holds, those are going to help us activate some more stabilization muscles in our body. It's important that we implement these practices so we are activating muscles that should be more active and turning down muscles that are a little bit too much active. So when we move on to things such as muscular endurance and hypertrophy, even max strength and power, we will be ready for these things when we get there. So as you go through your first workout, I want you to keep this in mind in every movement that you do. If I have assigned a tempo, please adhere to that tempo, that 4-second eccentric count, that 4-second lowering phase of that movement. That's going to be important to help you get out of any sticking points as well as activate those muscles properly. Like I said, there's also going to be some balance movement. We're also going to look at static holds. So that's the next part we want to talk about. Static hold is something where you're holding in a position for an extended period of time so that you can work on the muscles where you are most weakest. So for instance, going down to a squat at a 90-degree angle might be your weakest point. So you might want to hold a squat at that point for up to 4 seconds as well. So the tempo is still going to be the same there. You're going to hold a static hold for 4 seconds, except we're not worried about the eccentrics in that part anymore. We're actually worried about the isometric hold. So going forward, as we go through these workouts, we want to meticulously think about what we're doing while these workouts. Instead of just going through the motions and doing a bicep curl, we want to think about activating the muscles properly so we can move further along in our training plan. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is rep ranges. So we're going to be working in a rep range between 8 and 12. So this week, I want you to focus on getting 8 reps. So what does 8 to 12 mean? That means the weight needs to be heavy enough to at least get 8, but too heavy to get more than 12. So if we start at 8 and it's too heavy to possibly get 9 or 10, then we can work our way up over the next few weeks to get to that rep range of 12. Once we hit that 12, we can increase the weight and we can also change our training phase. So we want to operate in this rep range. You're going to play around with these numbers a little bit on your first workout. You might find that you're selecting certain weights that might be too light or too heavy. So in this first workout, really try to play with that weight or that rep range so you can figure out where you need to be to try to get closer to 8 so that as we go through, we can get all the way up to 12 reps by the end of Charlie, and then we can move on to the next training phase. Now, I've provided you with an RPE chart, and this RPE chart is going to help you select those weights. We're going to operate in an RPE of a 6.5 in this training phase. What that means is 65% maximum effort. You're giving 65% of your effort in this workout in order to complete this workout. So keep that in mind as we're selecting weights. You want to make sure you're selecting weights where you feel like you're giving 65% effort to get 8 to 12 reps. Remember, this first week, we want to focus on trying to get closer to that number 8 so that we can increase the rep ranges as we go through. But we also still want to keep in mind we need to be increasing weight as well.